Hello and welcome back to another episode of Nick Tiffany's Movie Reviews, coming at you online and in print format at nicktiffany.com, in audio format wherever you get your podcasts, and even in video on YouTube, Reels, TikTok, pretty much wherever you have social media, you can find us. Today we are talking with writer, director, producer Tracie Laymon, who has brought her feature film to the Seattle International Film Festival. Bob Trevino Likes It. This is a semi-autobiographical tale about Laymon's own life, a connection that was made with somebody who had the same name as her father on Facebook at a time where her father wasn't much of one to her. She sought out comfort in someone with the same name online, and in return, in just a quick short months, had someone who cared about her more than her own blood. The idea of chosen family is huge in this film, and it just absolutely reduced me to tears. I was a blubbery mess by the end of the movie, in just the most positive way, though. It is such a beautiful story. It is so superbly acted by Barbie Ferreira and John Leguizamo, who play Lily Trevino and Bob Trevino in the film. French Stewart as the actual father is just so infuriating. He does such a great job in the role, though, because he is so awful to Barbie's character. The movie, it just completely came out of left field for me at SIFF. This is undoubtedly the most affecting thing I feel I've seen this year. It will undoubtedly be on my lists come the year end. It's still looking for distribution, so I will be singing its praises. Get ready to see a lot about this film. It deserves to be seen. It deserves an audience. It is such an honest and sincere feature from Tracie Laymon, and I'm so excited for y'all to take a listen to our conversation. So without further ado, please enjoy. Well, Tracie, thank you so much for being here today. My name is Nick Tiffany. I write, record, and do all of my movie-related things for NT Movie Reviews. This is such a treat for the audience who's watching. Today I'm talking with director and writer, producer, short film and music video extraordinaire Tracie Laymon, who has brought her film Bob Trevino Likes It to the Seattle International Film Festival. I was reduced to a blubbery mess watching this movie last night. It is such an affecting tale, something that is so, I think, deeply rooted in honesty in this kind of new age social media generation. I've got so many things I'm excited to talk to you about, but to catch the audience up to speed, Bob Trevino Likes It is a story about a young girl who has her own issues perhaps with her father in her life and sort of seeks out maybe temporarily a different version of that man perhaps on Facebook, in a way that I think so many people have done, looking up whether it's myself on Facebook, somebody else on Facebook, looking for connection somewhere else. And she finds it in a man with the same name who becomes almost more of a father than she's had her whole life. And this film, I believe, is rooted in a lot of truth in your own experience. And so first, I just wanted to say thank you for being vulnerable enough to tell a story like this, because as I watched it, there was so much that just felt so personal and so open in just how vulnerable you were. Barbie Ferreira plays your character Lily, and I guess the first question I have for you is, what was it like sitting back watching someone take over your own story? Were you weirdly protective over some of it? Were there some things that you maybe learned about yourself as Barbie kind of took on that character for you?
Oh, wow. Well, the minute I met Barbie, it was instant connection. She's just a phenomenal human being, not only a phenomenal artist, but a phenomenal human being, and so there was just immediate trust, like just from the first conversation, there was just so much earned trust so quickly. And, it was a beautiful thing to see my personal story overlap with her personal story, and where those lives met and where those experiences met was Lily, and so she would maybe take something not exactly the way that I had experienced, but it absolutely had the truth of what I had experienced and executed in a way that was real to her. So, so that it was easy to let go of it in that way because I picked the absolute right person for the job, you know? She just got it in every single way, and I'm so proud of that collaboration, you know?
She, you know, it's she does a phenomenal job in the film. I mean, I was moved to tears. I was laughing. I was so impressed by her performance in so many ways, and the range that she can handle so many of those emotions, and the weight that she kind of carries in so many of those scenes. One thing that kind of stuck out to me that I loved was her going to counseling for the first time, and just the sweetness and sincerity she brings to this office, where maybe not everyone is in the best spirits. And one thing I guess I was just curious about, as far as looking at some of the, not disconnect between generations, but as you were telling the story about yourself when you're younger, were there certain things when you talked with Barbie about kind of creating this character, whether it's talking about maybe how counseling was viewed even 10, 15 years ago versus maybe experiences Barbie's had on her own, or, oh, you know, it is so commonplace for us to be talking about these things out loud or to be able to seek some of this help. Were you surprised in some ways, perhaps in the experience that she kind of brought to this, or the experience of younger people and maybe their reaction to being so open to something like counseling, or being open to doing some of the hard work to really understand ourselves or to try to better our situations?
I think I was the most surprised how because I think I expected it to be different because you know we're not the same age, you know, and I think I expected more differences and I expected to have to explain more maybe, but as she told me her stories, I was like, wow, it's she had this such similar experiences and in a completely different region, you know, of the U.S. and at a completely different you know, time, you know, and so that was really beautiful. You know, we both had similar experiences with the counselor, you know, like I was that was actually true for me. I went to a sliding scale therapist. No, no, sorry, she was sliding scale, but it was at the University of Texas. I got to UT Austin. I was like, I need therapy. You know, I went right to the trainee. You know, and so I don't want to give too much away, but when you see it, that was all real. That really happened. I ended up, you know, I ended up comforting the therapist at the end of my session. So, but I was just, I was sometimes without me even sharing my personal stuff, Barbie would share, and I was just amazed how similar they were, you know, and which is, I guess, you know, they say specificity is universal, you know, and so that was such a beautiful thing to see. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, no, it does, and it kind of helps segue into a different thing that I was thinking while watching this. You know, so many times watching movies, I feel like a great reaction, at least in my own head, is like, oh wow, how does this filmmaker know this about me? Why, like, why is this specifically on the screen? Because this feels like a targeted, like, okay, how did they know this? And one thing that just caught me about Barbie, that has caught me about you, watching interviews that you've given, listening to different times that you've talked about this film, other films that you've made, uh, there is just such a warmth and a kindness that radiates from you, and that in turn radiates to Barbie. And I am someone who, I don't know, I'm such a people pleaser. I work as a bartender, so I tell people, you know, I smile for a living. I am the best free therapist in town. But it is so hard sometimes to carry so much of that positive weight, and to be that shining light who's always happy, who's always got a smile, who people expect to maybe react in certain ways, expect to never make a fuss about certain things. And I wanted to know, specifically in the industry that you're in Hollywood, how hard is it sometimes to keep that brave face on, to keep that smile on, to carry the weight of everything you know, but to still inspire those people around you and inspire the people who are here working with you or wanting to work that way with you?
That's a really good question that no one's ever asked me before. I think it is really important if you are like you said, like a you know, I call myself a recovering people pleaser. You know, I'm still in recovery. You know, but learning to say no. You know, if someone like I can't do everything for everybody, but I can do what I can do. You know, so I do my best, and I think that some things that are really important is I've cut out a lot of people in my inner circle that are negative or that aren't kind of rooting for me, you know? If you're going to give everything, you can't have your inner circle keeping you down, you know?
No.
And then I just try to, when there's good, beautiful moments, like someone comes up to me after the film and they're saying this really affected them or something, and just be present and take it in. But, I also have to not totally take it in, because it's so, I take it in and I appreciate it, but I'm learning that I can't. There's so many, I gave my sad stories, right? And I made them funny, and everybody has stories like that, and so
Sure.
how do I hear these without, and have them and have a positive, and just taking, oh, I'm so glad that it's having this positive effect, and not taking the sadness of everybody's stories. But the good thing is,
Sure.
when they come up to me and they're crying, after I say, it's happy tears, right? It's connecting. You feel uplifted. And they always say yes. They're never crying because they've been, they feel more hopeless after the movie. That's for sure.
Sure.
But I think, and really feeling my feelings is important. Like if I feel sad, I can't, if I want to be this shining light of hope and uplift with my stories and things like that, and have a positive impact, I can't suppress my feelings. So if I feel sad, I need to cry. I need to go spend some time alone and cry. Or if I feel angry, I need to let someone know, hey, that thing you did, that made me angry. That made me feel angry, or whatever. Because I think the only way to shine so bright is not to suppress all that or repress all that stuff,
Sure. I really like that. I really like that. Um, so something immediately that connected me to this story, when I, probably over 12 or so years ago, when I was a sophomore in high school, I had a mentor in my life. His name was Mike Ward, a family friend who really started kind of bringing me into this world of film criticism, of early screenings, of talking about movies with so many different like-minded people. I'm this high schooler here with a 40-year-old man who, this is a friendship that is so much deeper than just a friendship. And as I've gotten older, there's so many times I look back on not only just what that impact on me was, just for my own career, for the belief that someone has in me to talk about films and be able to share why I love them and their impact with other things. But I look back and there was so much at the time maybe you not take for granted, but looking at how far Bob Trevino would drive to come and see someone who doesn't have a car. I had a car, and still this man drove 20 minutes to pick me up, to then take us 45 minutes to Seattle, adding 30 extra minutes to his trip every week just to take this kid along and provide an experience like no other. And I don't know what the theme of SIF has been this year, but so many films I've seen have touched on mentorship, or just this idea of having someone so impactful in your life. And it also being, there was the film in the festival, Chasing Time, a documentary short, and one of the lines that stuck with me from that film was just, how do you say thank you to a mentor?
Yeah.
And Bob Trevino Likes It, I think, is just a perfect encapsulation of showing gratitude, showing grace to yourself as well, I think. I guess I just wanted to know, in your own words, what the real life Bob Trevino meant to you. Was there any advice, any influence, something that maybe indirectly even you took from him that you've brought into the way that you lead your life in the world, that you lead as a filmmaker, taking on this cast, taking on this story?
Absolutely. I think one thing, there's so many things, because the actual Facebook friendship was 9 years, in the story, it's just a few months, but I wanted to make it also a few months because he had already changed my life in a couple of months. It didn't have, I don't feel like it has to be 9 years. You can do it in a day. You can change someone's life in a day,
Absolutely.
in a moment, sometimes. And I think one of the biggest things that I take away from this, that I try to live, put into my own life, is that he had no idea he was having this impact on me. I never told him. He just chose to be kind every time, and so sometimes when I'm down or hopeless or feeling kind of like, why are we doing the film industry is so hard, and making a film is so hard. I just say you don't know what kind of impact you're having, and it doesn't always translate in the way that you can see, or it might not be monetary or something right away. We don't, for example, we don't have a buyer for this film yet. I know we will.
Oh,
But
we will.
yeah.
I'm gonna make sure of it. I will beat the drum louder than any. We will make sure this film gets distribution. You mark my words.
Thank you. Thank you. But it just, it's like, but the audiences are there, and people, sometimes it'll trickle back to me and say, hey, 6 months ago you said this thing to me and it made me change. I called my daughter and now we're together, or whatever. You just don't know. And you may never know. He never knew. And he chose to keep doing this, and for no reason other than kindness, and we're all in this together. We're all, I think one thing I really love about the film is that everybody in the film is going through something, and they're very different people, going through different things that are somehow kind of the same. And so I just like to treat everybody. I know, like they say, like, you don't know what they're going through. So be kind. And especially online, we've gotten this like bullying kind of mentality where people just fight or say something behind this, wall of social media, like anonymously or anything. You have no idea what that person's going through. And if you just you make your point if you need to, but just add a little kindness, just a little. And then you can bring people to you. You can actually have positive effect, So I just try to do that a little bit every day, whether it's, someone I'm passing, going through a door, or,
It's crazy how much even just a smile can make a difference, or how much that you smile at someone and it starts a brief conversation, or someone smiles back and it just, those little moments, it might not always mean the world to you, but that completely shifts someone else's day. And that's such a powerful thing. And leading with love and leading with kindness. So much of this film is just a reflection of that. And just listening to how the cast talks about it, everybody I've spoken to who has watched this movie, either at South by Southwest or here at SIF, the reaction has just been universal. I mean, I watched the movie and I was like, okay, that's undoubtedly the best thing I've seen this year. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm so glad that you could not see me while I was watching this, because I'm like, like by the end, it was just all happy tears, but just, it was really beautiful to see, like you'd said, in a day and time where people online can be so vicious, so uncaring. There is this whole weird side of the internet, which I'm familiar with. I'm sure tons of people are familiar with. But you meet someone online, you start a friendship with someone, whether it's a fellow mutual on Twitter or someone on Facebook. It could be someone you match with on Tinder, whatever it is. And there is this experience that has taken place in the last decade or so, at least, where, maybe it's because you have that buffer, you have that screen, you can be a little more vulnerable with someone who you've only known for 2 months knows you better than people in your life who've known you for a decade. And I really liked shining kind of a positive light on that in this story, because I think a lot of people have stuff like that, or they have connections and friendships where it's like, yeah, well, I guess this person is online, and people might try to invalidate that, but it's like, no, I've got this strong community of people who love the same things that I do, or people who maybe are strangers in their own right, but we come together over this shared love of something. And it's really cool to see the positive side of that in film, and to see it not be something that's like mocked or like, oh, you met someone online, like that's not a real friendship, that's not real, because I know what's real. And what's real is the kindness and generosity that people show, and they're uplifting versus someone in person who couldn't be bothered to say one great thing about me or help me do anything. And so it was so refreshing to see that different take on things. Watching Barbie in bed, kind of posting and waiting, just waiting for this response. It gave me the Social Network flashback and hitting the refresh button. I've been there. We have all been there. Those are those universal experiences where we know that we're longing for something. We're looking for a deeper connection. We're looking to share ourselves with the world as well. And I just think you've gone about it in such a beautiful way telling this story. I'm just so thankful for you for putting this out there. I wanted to touch on your experience at the University of Texas. I'm a Houstonian, a fellow Houstonian as well. So reading up about you and learning more about your career is just awesome. Just because my dad was a Longhorn, and having gone to school down at that's right, we're Longhorns fans. Even though I did a couple years at the U of H, I love just the atmosphere, especially in Austin, and despite some of the politics that come out of Texas, despite what a lot of my friends have always thought, there is just such a kindness to so many of the people down there and a warmth that anytime I'm back there, it's like, wow, this really does feel like home. And it's not to knock on Seattle or the Seattle Freeze or anything like that, but when I am down there, there is just such an energy and the kindness of so many of the people. You got to work, I believe, is it Detour Films, or working briefly for Richard Linklater's production company. What was life for you like being in Austin at such a young age, taking in some of these influences from the filmmakers, and then getting to go back, bring this film to Austin, have it just tear the house down? What has this whole experience been like for you, just in terms of coming home or taking it home and then taking it beyond?
It was really beautiful. I was an intern at Detour Film, so that was like really the beginning, and I remember, going to South by Southwest screenings as a college student and just admiring the filmmakers that were screening there and seeing them up, doing the Q&As and everything, and looking up to them, and here I was doing that this year and having young people look. I'm gonna cry probably, but it was so beautiful to come full circle in that way, and to be able, I hope I can keep paying it forward the way people paid it forward for me. A lot of people believed in me. They didn't give up on me. It took me a minute, and I just kept at it, and I try to tell the young people to keep at it. But yeah, it was beautiful, and I had friends and family in the audience. People drove up from Houston, had old college friends, in Austin that were still there. People flew in. We had a lot of people related to the film that flew in too. So I was overwhelmed with how beautiful it was, and for a movie about chosen family, to have the cast and crew, which were like my chosen family, and then my Houston and Austin, some real, biological family and chosen.
Yeah.
I was like, is it possible for something to be too good? My heart is like too full. Is that possible?
Absolutely. The cup's running over.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're having to wrap up. I wanted to ask you if there was maybe a memory or something in your experience with Bob that maybe you wanted to share in film, but maybe just didn't quite fit for the story as far as the pace you're selling, but a memory or just something lasting that you really wanted to share, perhaps about Bob or your experience with him.
One thing that really was a key moment for me that it really affected me was I used to have really long hair. I used to present a little more femme than I do now. I think I'm more androgynous, but and I had a lot of, when I shaved my head during the pandemic, I said, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to express myself differently. Now I like this kind of haircut, but I was just trying it. I shaved my head and I said, I feel pretty good. I feel like maybe short hair might be more me, and I was surprised that a lot of people on Facebook that I actually knew were like saying negative things on my comment. And I thought, you know me, you're not like some troll behind a thing. Like, how can you, oh, I really liked your hair. And I'm like, well,
Thanks.
What, you don't like traditional gender roles? Like, whatever. Like, I'm like, you're my friend. What's happening? And then I get this notification that says, his name was Bob Layman. I changed the name because there's another mentor named Bob Trevino, and because Barbie and John are like, I had Latino mentors, and it just so I changed the name. But I got this. I was kind of sad. I was like, I finally feel like myself, and like I can't believe people are not supporting me. And then I got this notification that said, Bob Layman says, I think it looks great, kiddo. And it just,
it's just like tear reduction right there. Oh my God.
I was just like, Bob, You know exactly what to say and exactly when to say it and exactly how to say it. And he had no idea that how much I needed that. Or maybe he did, you know. So but either way, he just and you know, I feel better, you know, every day when I see myself. I said, I think it looks great, you know. You know. So there I don't keep those trolls or bullies in my mind, you know. But are you just everybody needs someone to just have their back, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Crazy. Thank you so much for doing this. This Bob Trevino likes it. This is more than just a gem of a film. Uh, Real quick as we wrap, is there anything I can help do? What can we do to help get this in front of more eyes? How can I go about beating the drum for this movie? Because seriously, this is going to move people in so many ways. And this is essential filmmaking and storytelling that at its core is why I watch movies, why people love movies, and why we become better for watching them.
I think one thing, if you could follow us on social media, on Instagram, we're Bob Trevino likes it. You know, not .com. Bob Trevino likes it. We do have Bob Trevino likes it.com. But just I don't know, you know, a buyer might change the name or anything. But if you follow us, and it on Letterbox, if you like the film, if you can write, you know, please put this movie in theaters or anything like that on Letterbox, buyers might see that. And IMDb, if you know, rate us highly if you liked it. All that stuff can add up, and if and hopefully you'll stay in touch. And as things start to progress, you'll tell your friends. You know,
Absolutely. I will be singing the song's praises all year. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. Thank you for a beautiful film. And I just hope you have a wonderful rest of the festival and a wonderful time. I can't wait to see what you do next, truly.
gosh, thank you so much, Nick. Thanks for all your wonderful questions and for being so open to the film.
No, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.